Hello everybody and welcome to another new player guide. This time we are talking about the Creole Charmer. He will make a name for himself, Remy LeBeau, aka the Gambit. Before we get into the major parts of this review, just remember that if you are somebody that loves this kind of content, go check out The Winning Hand. If you're someone that enjoys hearing about all the encounter sets and everything, go listen to Critical Encounters. It's a great podcast. And then for gameplay, we got Ray Plays Games and Solo Marvel Champion. And then just for all things think pieces, Get Up in Game. Like I said, this week we are talking about Remy LeBeau, the Gambit, classic 90s X-Men character, love interest in many cases of Rogue, and standout star of X-Men 97 Episode 5. That'll be a dated reference by the time some people get to this. But welcome to my new player guide, where we are talking about the hero kit. We are looking at what the character can bring to the table, what their high points, their weaknesses are, and overall just getting into their obligation and the other kit. I'm completely blanking on what it is. Either way, you know what we're talking about today. So overall, we're talking about Remy LeBeau, the Gambit. We'll start out with the card right now. He is a 3 recovery mutant thief traded alter ego with the Thief Extraordinaire action. It is a thwart ability on a alter ego, which is fun and interesting. Exhaust Remy LeBeau and look at the top 2 cards of the encounter deck. Discard one of those cards. Remove threat from a scheme equal to the number of boost icons on that card. So this is the key to how Remy LeBeau can be a hero that you play exclusively, if not almost exclusively, in alter ego form. I will say the possibility of that, as I look at his suite of cards, makes it go, okay, so his hero kit in that context is just there as resources. But I know people that have done that. I have looked up decks. In fact, as I was trying to prepare for this, I was looking at a deck that was using Come At Me Bub and sort of pointing that protection thing. And I do feel like for the most part, it's not the same as Justice, where you find yourself in alter ego the entire time. But in protection, I was able to kind of stick around in alter ego quite a bit. Interesting design. I think that we were eventually going to get a character in this mold. Obviously, a lot of people play Black Widow in this kind of same mold where you just sit and you play poker. Remy is kind of the second incarnation of that, and I think both of them have their merits. I think we were going to see a character like this that did bluntly thwart on the alter ego side in a way that is really compelling. Oh, and I suppose I kind of skipped. I did this with Rogue too. I got to it eventually, but I kind of forgot about this. So he has a 6 hand size and 9 hit points. Well, a lot of the X-Men seem to kind of a lot of the X-Men sort of seem to top out at 9 or 10 hit points, and Remy is right there. Then we move to Gambit, a thief X-Men traded hero with 1 thwart, 2 attack, 3 defense. With the action, place 1 charge card here, limit once per round, and throw discard. Interrupt when you play an attack event, remove up to 3 charge counters from here. That event deals +1 damage for each counter removed. So I will say that in my playtesting and in my memory when I first got Gambit, I know that I got Gambit pretty close to when I got Rogue. I didn't get them on release day. What a different time that was. But I feel like I played him a few times and I didn't get everything out of him. I feel like I understood him okay enough, but I kind of just moved on. I forget to charge the card all the time. It becomes the last thing I do every turn because I'm always like, oh yeah, I guess I can do that. His interrupt in aggression, Gambit is awesome. And with the things that we've seen in protection, like I said, with the Come At Me Bub archetype, all that stuff where you're trying to do stuff on the villain phase, I do think that does fit him really well. I think the ability to bump up damage, especially when you have things with multiple attacks on a single card, being able to bump that up by 1, 2, or 3 is really cool. Even if you're doing 1, I think that's notable because these cards are balanced for what they're balanced for. And if you get to augment that at all, all power to you. Right off the bat, I'll even say that Gambit is just not the hero for me, but I can think of people that I think Gambit would be the hero for them. and I'm excited for them, and I would gladly put that into the hands of my friends who I think will vibe with Gambit. First off, let's talk about Rogue, who costs 4. She's an ally with 2 attack, 2 thwart, the aerial and X-Men traits, and 3 health. Reduce the cost to play Rogue by 1 for each charge counter on your identity, and she has toughness. So she could conceivably be free. She could conceivably be like, you know, a 3 health minion or a 3 health ally for 1 or 2. And overall, I think that her design is just reflective of Gambit. She's just a good ally for Gambit. She gets cheaper from him doing what he's doing. She has toughness. That's really helpful. And I think that overall, just 2 thwart, 2 attack is nice and balanced. I do think that if you're playing her for 4, you are doing a disservice to yourself. Just do something else. Keep her around. Put some charge count. I don't know. Playing her for 4 is not worth it, but playing her for 3, kind of you're bordering there. But once you get below 3, you're golden. Like, she's a great ally at that cost. She's probably a fine ally at 3, but I just wouldn't do it. Let's talk about. We'll talk about her single cards at the end. So, next up we have Gambit's resource cards. Molecular Acceleration, a hero interrupt. When you spend this card, place 1 charge counter on Gambit. Importantly, that means that for some of the cards we're going to look at, that resource should already be on you. Oh, actually, wait. Okay, let's look at Gambit real quick. This is the part that I feel like frustrates me about Gambit. So, when you play an event... Oh, God, okay. Let me pause real quick. Okay, I'm happy I did this. I didn't just put this onto the screen. Okay, so let's just go over how an event is played real quick, because I do think this is important. And this is sort of what can be frustrating about Gambit. So, each time a player plays an event card, its costs are paid, its effects are resolved or are canceled, and the card is placed in its owner's discard pile. So each time a player plays an event, you pay its costs, you resolve its effects, and the card is put into your discard pile. Lord help me if somebody in the comments wants to fix this, I will pin that comment. I'm pretty sure this is how it works, and I'm pretty sure this is how it worked beforehand, but I didn't want to misspeak, which is why I paused my recording. So, with his throw to card ability, when you play the card, you remove up to 3 charge counters. If I'm understanding correctly, you're playing the event. You've played it, you've made the decision about how many charge counters you're going to take off of it. Then you play the event, or then you pay for the event, which means that this happens, meaning if... Oh gosh, okay. So I always like to make the examples as clear as possible. So I go in, I'm about to play an event. We'll get into this in a second. So I'm about to play this attack event. I remove 3. Okay, that's a bad example. Okay, sorry, because you have more than you need. So I'm sitting here, I'm about to play this event. We'll get into it in a second. We're not talking about that exactly. I decide that I would like to decide how many charge counters I'm doing. I decide 2. I then go to pay for it with Molecular Acceleration. I now have 1 counter on him. This event you do not have the option to move that over. It is now just, this is going to be the state of the game. So, this is what can be a little, I think, frustrating for a new player when it comes to Molecular Acceleration. Once again, if I am wrong, I know somebody will call me out. The rules people eventually get around all these kinds of things. They are very smart. Based on the rules as they currently sit, which I believe is like 1.6. 1.6, wow, I was off. Version 14 of the rules. Wow, I was way off. Version 14 of the rules. Based on version 14 of the rules, and I think this was the intention. I think once again, I think this is something that I think a player who's just being introduced to Gambit is not going to properly grasp. You do not get to. There is a lot of timing with Gambit that can be a little frustrating if you think you know what you're doing, only to be only to discover that you were wrong. Whether that be in the moment and another player says that's not how it works, or you eventually learn how it works and then you're frustrated because what you thought was really good wasn't as good as you thought it was. Either way, I think this is a really cool resource for him. It works into what he's doing. It is a double resource, and it's a double resource of 2 different resources. Cool. Next up, we have Natural Agility. A defense card, 0 cost event, defense superpower, hero interrupt defense. When you defend against an attack, place 1 charge counter on Gambit. For each charge counter on Gambit, you get +1 defense for this attack. I like this. He already has 3 defense, so if you find yourself in a point of defending, you are probably defending for 5 or 6. It's pretty great. This is a really cool card. I think that if it's one card that you don't think about when you play Gambit, I think you are underrating it. I think it is a fine middle of the road card. It's not the best card he has, but I think it is a pretty good card, and I think it will. I don't know. I know partially because I forget to put the charges onto Gambit, but I think also there's not enough that's pulling stuff off unless you are in an aspect that does a lot of attacking. So you might stack up quite a few, and this just becomes don't take any damage. I think in a protection role where you are, let me just make sure I have this in here. So like with Not Today, where the goal is to not take any damage. This works in tandem with that really great. Let me see, was there any other cards? Oh, I suppose this is also why under control, you're looking to not take damage from the minions so you can deal 4 damage. This is part of why Gambit in the new Change of Fortunes archetype, I think he works really well for that. And actually, one more comment on this. I think he works really well in that, and I think this is the kind of card that gets new life because of that archetype opening up in protection. All right, now we're actually getting around to Royal Flush formally. Once again, this runs in the same problem, which is probably why I thought about this. So, Royal Flush is a 3-cost event, attack superpower, hero action, place 1 charge on Gambit. Then you deal 0 damage, deal 0 damage, deal 0 damage. So, this obviously works in tandem with what Gambit's already doing. He wants to take charge counters off so that the Royal Flush deals 3, 3, and 3. Because he can deal up to 3. As you may notice, this puts a charge counter onto Gambit. So once again, I've decided to do 2, and this adds 1 to Gambit. That 1 cannot be a part of Royal Flush. That's already been decided. You've already made your decisions for that. That's not something you get to do because when you play the attack event, the attack has already been played. That charge counter you get does you no good. And once again, I'm coming down a little bit hard on Gambit here. I don't have a lot against Gambit. I do think that this is a sticking point that a player that's coming to him for the first time is not going to understand the nuances of unless they've played a lot. He teaches you timing. That's part of what makes Gambit a good hero to use, is he teaches you a part of the timing of the game that you might not run into playing through with other heroes. But Royal Flush, overall, really cool card. 3 for 9 is great. Now we've got 3 copies of Charge Card. Focus on just this one. So it is a 2-cost event, attack superpower. Hero action, deal 4 damage to an enemy. For this attack, if Gambit's charged throw to card ability removed at least 1 counter, it gains ranged. 2 counters, it gains piercing. 3 counters, it gains overkill. So the fact that Gambit gets 5 attack events in his kit is cool, and that they're over the course of 2 cards is also cool. I will be very conservative with this card, because unless I'm removing the 3 charge counters and it's dealing 7 damage with overkill, 5 damage with range, 6 damage with piercing. I guess 6 damage with piercing kills a lot of tough minions. Kills a lot of tough. It's really good against a tough villain too. Putting that dent in there. Like I said, I will tend to be conservative with this card simply because I want to get I will be conservative with this card simply because I so often want to get that overkill. 7 damage, carry some of it over to the villain is what I'm looking to do with this card. I might be silly. I might be completely off base, and it's like, no, if you can hit a retaliate enemy, actually, if you're killing a retaliate ally or a minion, it doesn't matter. But if you are doing 5 damage with retaliate, or 5 damage with range to a retaliate enemy of any kind, that might be worth it. It probably is, and I might be playing this card wrong, but overall, this is the card I become the most conservative of. I will save this to get as many charge counters off as possible. And last of the double up cards, we've got Creole Charmer. A 2-cost event, thwart here, alter ego action, that's important. Adds to what Remy is able to do. Remove 3 threat from a scheme. If this removes the last threat from that scheme, confuse the villain. This is fun. I like the fact that this is an alter ego. It pushes you to be doing your thwarting in your alter ego form. And that's helpful because Gambit has 1 thwart. You don't really want to be thwarting in his hero side. You want to be attacking on his hero side. And this is what's going to help, because this being able to work while he's an alter ego is really what makes Gambit unique and fun. Then we move on to the singleton cards. We've got the Thieves Guild, a 1-cost support guild trait. Alter ego response after you play your Thief Extraordinaire ability, the one that thwarts for you on an alter ego. Exhaust the Thieves Guild. Remove 1 threat from a scheme. If this was the last removed, draw a card. This might be my favorite card in his thing just because it's so off base. I love all of his damage. I love natural agility, but the fact that this is just sort of like a alter ego support that can just be great. You just thwart and thwart and thwart on an alter ego. It's what makes Gambit so unique. It's what makes him notable, is that he's not just an attack hero. He's not just a thwart hero. He's an attack hero, and he's a thwart alter ego, and this just adds to that, which is why I like it so much. I feel like I'm not saying its praises, but I do like it a lot. Then we've got Gambit's Staff, a 1-cost upgrade item weapon. Hero interrupt. When an enemy attacks, exhaust Gambit's Staff, deal 1 damage to that enemy. Once again, this is why another card that adds to his protection archetype to be getting those under controls, getting those draw cards off Change of Fortune. Like this is why I found the deck. I didn't build it. I agree with the community that has come to the conclusion that Gambit is somebody that works well in protection in this archetype. And this is a card that does that. It breaks the tough during an attack. It finishes off a minion if you needed to. It just gets you that much closer with a villain. And this is a factor that I don't know that I take a lot of thought of, other than the fact that now I make content. But how often is the villain at less than 3 at a pivotal moment? An attack could flip them to the next stage if they just had another damage or 2 on them. The villain would just be defeated if they just had another damage or 2. And this is the kind of card that is going to get that 1 or 2 damage you need to really change the tempo of the game. You don't have to waste another turn in stage 1. You can move to stage 2. That attack event isn't going to leave them just shy of flipping over. And by contrast, that also means that hopefully you push them to the point where you're not doing something akin to swinging web kick for 8 against a villain that has 4 health. And the last card in this kit is Gambit's Guild Armor, a 1-cost upgrade armor item. After Gambit defends against an attack and takes no damage, exhaust Gambit's Guild Armor, ready Gambit. So once again, this is really helpful. It feeds off of his 3 defense and makes it so that he can still be ready to attack afterwards. Great card. Not a lot to say about it. Just, a good card to have. Now, moving on to his Obligation and Nemesis kit. We have Guild Business, a obligation give to the Remy LeBeau player. Alter ego action, exhaust Remy LeBeau and spend an energy resource, remove Guild Business from the game, and it has a crisis icon on it, meaning that you get an extra encounter card every turn. I'll say pretty soft considering the fact that you kind of want to find yourself an alter ego a lot. He doesn't have a attacks. That's correct, right? Oh no, okay. So molecular decay does have it on there, but the interrupt is for hero, meaning that you will not get the charge. So either way, I think this is pretty soft. I think it is thematic, but it's not really going to slow you down because you kind of already have a lot of reason to want to be an alter ego anyway. So this isn't the inconvenience that other obligations are. Then we have his nemesis Belladonna, I believe his former girlfriend, a unique minion, 2 scheme, 3 attack, 5 health, assassin elite. She has quick strike and toughness. After Belladonna attacks and defeats a character, place 2 threat on the main scheme. Importantly, that is just to defeat the character. So if she's taking out allies, she's progressing the main scheme, and that is notable. She has pretty high stats, I'll say. I think a lot of Nemesis minions tend to have a lot of stats, but the fact that she can deal 3 damage and possibly add 2 threat to the main scheme is actually kind of scary. She's not too hard to get rid of, but she does quick strike, which means you may need to chump block, and suddenly you are losing an ally out of nowhere, and you are getting more threat put onto the main scheme. She has toughness, which I guess this is when something like piercing is going to be important. She's not a really tough minion, even though she has toughness. She's not a troublesome minion, but I think that she poses enough of a threat that you need to be tactful with how you deal with her. Then we've got the Thieves Guild side scheme. Force interrupt. After an assassin minion attacks and defeats a character, place 2 threat on the main scheme. So I suppose that's also important. These 2 are going to come into play at the same time when you hit Shadow of the Past, which means if she were to defeat one of your allies, you're adding 4 threat to the main scheme. She has a acceleration icon, or this has an acceleration icon. Overall, actually, that might be more notable. I don't think that I processed that as I was talking about Belladonna originally. This combination could be very dangerous, and that's something to keep in mind. Oh, and I suppose I didn't give this the credit. Okay, so this does come into play with 4 threat, and it's going to make other assassins. I don't know that too many other scenarios just naturally come with assassins. They probably do. There's probably obviously the Reavers aren't in a scenario, but there might be a scenario that has assassins somewhere in it. If we ever get Shadowland, then absolutely. But I think this is a side scheme that I would still want to get rid of just because of an acceleration icon. And the times when all of a sudden an assassin takes out an ally, and you're like, oh, that changes the math. Just get rid of this so you don't have to worry about that. Then we have 2 copies of Guild Assassin, a 1 scheme, 2 attack assassin minion with 2 health. They are quick strike, very thematic of the assassins. They're all quick strike. And force response. After a Guild Assassin attacks and defeats a character, place 1 threat on the main scheme. So in combination with the side scheme, you could be getting 3 threat off a quick strike ally, or off a quick strike minion. So yeah, just going to say it right there. Get rid of the side scheme and try to get rid of these assassins in the most tactful way you can, because they are just going to progress the main scheme if you just let them. And then last card is Assassination Attempt. When revealed, each assassin minion attacks you even if they're not engaged. Even if you are in alter ego form. If there are no assassin minions in play, search the encounter deck and discard pile for an assassin minion and reveal it. Luckily, you get to choose which assassin that is, so you don't have to pick Belladonna. But overall, they're going to attack you no matter what form you're in, but they're also going to attack you no matter who they're engaged with. Notably, they don't re-engage you. So Belladonna, if she's with player A and this gets drawn by player B, it's not going to move on you. But either way, this encounter set is a pain in the butt, is all I have to say. Once again, I pray for you that you get this at the end, because if you get this in the middle and the threat of assassins showing up at any moment, it's going to be a murder. This is bad. This is no fun. I think it's thematic. I think that, once again, I said this a while back. I don't remember which hero it was for. But overall, I think that it's important that these encounter sets are powerful, because they should make an impact. Because if they didn't, then what are they there for? Here we are. At the end, we've got Gambit. Maybe not my favorite hero overall, but I do think that he gets new toys all the time, and I think that it makes him better and better. I really like him overall in terms of just being a unique hero. Once again, like I said at the top of the episode, he's not the hero for me, but I think for the players that really get something out of him, he is exactly what they want. He can be both an alter ego thwarter and he can be a hero attacker. He is pretty much an all-arounder in that respect, and I can enjoy that. But until next time, when we talk about Storm, I will see you then.